Is the music skipping? I don't know. This week on the Virtual Skeptics, Bob is the quiz master. All hail Bob. He's hanging out with Yeti Bear and Boo. Some pretty good contestants. And Tim has misplaced some of his tools. Don't ask. Well, you can ask later. I'm your host, Brian Gregory. And I got nothing.
Oh.
Yeah. I was going to say some stuff and some other stuff, and then some things at the place with the people, but I decided not to.
With that guy?
Yeah.
Was that guy there?
Yeah, with the thing.
Was it going to be about sippy cups?
Sippy cups. Yes, it was going to totally be about sippy cups, because sippy cups are awesome. Welcome, one and all, to the Virtual Skeptics. That's us. We're doing this thing at the place with the people.
Yeah.
And these are the people. They're not even ready for it. You ready? Hi. There you go.
Hi.
That is Bob Blaskiewicz, CSI's conspiracy guy. Why?
That means cool in Spanish.
CSI's conspiracy guy, web columnist, blogger from Skeptic. I can't even do this. Blogger for Skeptic Humanities and Skepticality contributor. Next up, Eve Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptic Humanities and contributor to Skepticality and Insight without an S at skeptic.com. Skeptic.com. I'm not doing this at all. Tim. This is Tim. That's Tim right there. Tim Farley, blogger at SkepTools and Insight without an S. At skeptic.com, Skepticality contributor, creator of whatstheharm.net, and former JREF fellow. Hi, how you doing?
Doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. This is going to do a show. What?
Have you tried the muscatoli?
The muscatoli, is that like a
That's a thing.
Italian dessert that tastes like
chicken? It all tastes like chicken.
Okay, fine. So, if you're watching, hi. We're going to do some stuff. And
If you're watching, what the hell are you thinking at this point?
well, apparently, hey, that was the card I picked, like, yesterday. The 6 of clubs.
That was good. I'm good.
That was good. Yeah, see? You're awesome.
Yep.
We've got 7 viewers. And for you 7, you wonderful, wonderful 7, we've got a trivia question, like we do every week. And Tim is here with that.
Oh, yeah. It's another anniversary. This is everybody remembers the People's Temple massacre, right? Mass murder / suicide in South America in the 1970s. It's kind of a Christian culty sort of thing. Very sad story. But there was an even larger...
Changed Kool-Aid for everyone.
Yeah, even though it was Flavor Aid.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Wow. There was an even larger mass suicide / mostly murder involving a Christian cult on March 17th, 2000. In which African country did
Patrick's
this take
Day
place?
Massacre?
Oddly enough, it had to do with the turn of the Y2K turn, but it took till March for anger to
so the computer glitch didn't kick in for a few months.
Well, it's a long story. But anyway, over 800 people died in this incident.
Wow.
A lot of people don't even, outside this country, don't even remember it, or at least I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. But it was in Africa. Which country in Africa?
There's a lot to choose from. Thanks, Tim, for that question. Guys, get on it. What I forgot to mention, and I usually don't really mention this because you guys that watch kind of know, you guys are savvy. If you want to respond to that question, you want to respond to anything we're going on here, and you want to try to get on the show, there are several ways you can do that. You can tweet with hashtag Virtual Skeptics. You can comment on the YouTube feed, and you can also send us a question.
Or you can send us money in the mail.
Or a coup.
That would be nice.
But money in the mail would be nicer than a coup.
That's true. But setting aside the coup option and the money option and the showering us with presents option, you can ask a question via the Q&A app on Google+, and we will do our best to answer it and tag it for future.
Especially if the question is, what denomination of cash would we like?
Yeah. Okay. Secondary quiz that we have every week that people are kind of probably growing bored with is I have 2 videos playing on screens behind me. If you can somehow figure out what the heck that is, then let me know, and we will.
Then you're a freaking genius.
We will give you a smaller amount to give us. I don't know. You're a genius. Yes. Blotchies. Blotch number 1 and blotch number 2. Okay then. Okay. So this week. Nope, wrong one. That one. There you go. I get to go first. I'm so excited. Yay. So, I got two great things for you, and they're kind of related. First up, a little bit of instruction. In case, for people out there that are worried about the robot apocalypse and want to learn various ways to defend yourself, I have a little video for you. Now, this is a particular research project going on at Oregon State University. It is called Atreus. It is another one of those nefarious walking robots. This is a platform that they use. Well, they've designed and built it themselves to study walking or bipedal type locomotion in engineering. Here's a little bit of a video clip. There you go. Look. And apparently, it has a major weakness. Well, it likes to hobble around. There you go.
It likes to prance.
Yes, it is pretty arrogant as far as a walking robot is concerned. The method of locomotion they have is one where it's a. Yes, I forget.
This is the silliest looking thing you've ever showed us.
It's a test platform, so yes, get past it.
It looks like
is
a
actually
Herbie
standing on its
Hancock
own.
video.
What?
Herbie
Yeah, it is kind of Herbie
Hancock.
Hancock-ish. But they're pummeling it with dodgeballs and seeing how far they can pummel it before it falls over.
They just want to play dodgeball.
Soon. Hold it. Wait for it. There you go. It's coming soon. Wait. There.
Uh-oh.
Oh, right in the area.
There you go. See, look at that.
Oh,
that is how you kill a robot with a dodgeball.
Oh, it hit the emergency stop.
There you go.
Doesn't that work on Centaurans too?
Suntarans? Do they have emergency stop? I think you have to use gold to suffocate them, or you can stab them in their throat or whatever the hell.
That was always the Achilles heel of the robot.
Yeah.
Space too. He had that little doohickey that you could yank off his back and.
Yes. So for future robot designers, every robot that you can possibly put together. No matter how cool it is, whatever, make sure you use the
big red button.
Yeah, the BRB. It's the safety system. It's called Big Red Button. Put the big red button on the side, so all we have to do to save ourselves from the future robot apocalypse is make sure we have lots of rubbery balls around that we can throw.
Aren't there other ways to do this? Or is this just more fun?
Ways to do what? Shut down robots?
Turn
you could
off
blow them up. That's fun.
Yeah, but this one seems to be fairly on a leash.
This is a test platform, and it is tethered. It's they don't want the thing to fall and break itself, so they have it tethered. It's standing on its own. But if it were to fail and fall over, they have the cord attached to it, so it would catch itself.
So that's not like an umbilical cord where you can just.
Well, this one also has a tether that is electrical, so they can get telemetry off it. See, they're recording everything because they want to go back and be able to replay and simulate and do more testing and blah blah blah. But yeah, it is standing on its own. It's not actually standing solid. It's doing one of those, and I can't remember the term right now. It's there's a term for that kind of unstable stableness.
It's a plie.
No, but
it looks like a 20s comedy act.
It really does.
So
appropriate music
hold it.
on that video would be
hang on. Let me put the video back on, and we'll
Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling.
So So there you go.
More like,
It's very, very appropriately yakety saxable.
You know, but it also reminds me of the Scouts in Empire Strikes Back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, those are bipedal walkers, so yeah, they would probably use something very similar.
And they shot it in the big red button.
And they shot it in the big red button. So, this is called the Atreus again. It's run by Oregon State University. They're going to have a big They're going to show this off in a big demonstration in June at the finals for the DARPA Robot Challenge, which is, let's see, I'll give you the exact dates for this.
It will do well in the bikini competition.
I think the other one would do well in the DARPA Robot Challenge.
DARPA. The DARPA Robot Challenge.
This one looks scarier.
Actually, the soccer one is more of a DARPA Robot Challenge. This, yeah, because it's a lot of silliness. June 5th to 6th at the Fairplex, if you want to go, in Pomona, California, is the finals for the DARPA Robotic Challenge. Now, if you guys remember, I talked about this 2 years ago. Late 2013, there was the big trial run where all these teams, all the American teams went and had to go through. They took the robot systems. Some of them had custom systems. Some of them used the Boston Dynamics Atlas and just did software control. But they all had certain number of tasks they had to complete to qualify to be in the DARPA challenges coming up this year. And 11 teams qualified from that. Now they recently announced that they're adding 14 other teams, which are not American teams. They're from all over the world, and they're going to compete in not in individual events like they did before. They have a series, like a whole scenario they have to go through. Let's see. They will start driving a vehicle. That's one of the tasks they did from before. They will drive to a simulated disaster building, and they will have to open doors, walk on rubble, use tools, climb a stair,
execute prisoners.
Well, at the end of all this, there is
Angela Merkel.
Surprise.
Angela Merkel.
What did you say?
Meet with Angela Merkel.
You have to meet with Angela Merkel.
Angela Merkel.
Shake hands with her.
Did I say Angela? I said Angela.
Yes. Well, they did say there's an unannounced surprise challenge at the end of this whole run that they're gonna have to do, which it could be meet with her. Who knows? It could be execute prisoners. It could be answer a few questions about whether or not you love or hate humans. Maybe that's the final challenge. I don't know. But it's going to be cool, and they're going to broadcast it online like they did last time, and you're going to see a lot of cool robots. The Shaft is going to be there. The one that won last year is the Team Shaft that's now owned by Google, and that's actually I queued up the video. This thing is really cool. There it is, driving a car.
Like you do.
Like you do. It looks kind of like an Ed 209 with arms.
I like how he's just turning the steering wheel by just...
I know, it was like, yeah, and why use your arm when you have a wrist that can turn 360 degrees?
I know, right?
Yeah, just like you can snap arms off with the 360-degree wrist.
I see swords. I see it needs swords.
Yes. Yes, you clearly saw it was the Kuko robot demo video, which had two robots doing swordplay, which, by the way, was choreographed, just like all swordplay is. I'm trying to piss someone off by saying that, but no.
Anyone in particular?
As far as I know, there are no robot swordplay happening that isn't choreographed. Look, he's like cutting holes in the wall and stuff. Isn't that cool?
So
there you go.
The betting on this is just intense, right?
The what on this? What?
The betting.
Vetting?
The brackets,
Let's see. I had the brackets from the trial up here. There it is. About half the teams that qualified last year, about half the teams that competed last year qualified. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, there's about 20 some teams that competed in the trials, and 11 of them made it. And technically, any of them that made over a certain number of points, and usually they get a certain number of points for each activity they did in the trial. So anything over, I think, like over 8 points, they all got in.
I know this isn't possible, but it looks like it has to go to the bathroom.
Kind of, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. Oil, something? I don't know.
The other one was doing a pee-pee dance for sure.
That's true.
I'm sure that is just camouflage. Actually, what it does, because make disarm humans before it kills them. Okay, so there you go. We've got our kill robots with dodgeballs, and make sure you watch the DARPA Challenge in June. I will probably update with more information as it becomes available. I'm gonna watch it because I want to know what I have to kill. So, any other questions? I see there were some comments on tweets. Maybe a dub bot that could inappropriately massage Angela Merkel.
Ooh.
I'm sure that's happened.
Wait, what?
No. Dr. Atlantis is fun. Who's next?
Oh, I'm next.
Yeah, Tim's next.
Dr. Atlantis was also asking about fighting robots coming back to TV.
That's
Did
true.
we mention that last week?
Yeah, we mentioned last week that Robot Wars is coming back to TV, and I'm looking forward to it. If I get any information about when and how, I will definitely announce it on the show. So, Tim, where's your missing tools?
Oh, well, so my blog post this week. Every once in a while, I'm always gathering stuff for my blog and for this show, and I shove it away in Evernote and make a note to go back and look. And so I've always got things I'm keeping an eye on, stuff that's in beta test, new tools that are being put up or kickstarted or whatever, and I figure out what I'm going to write about that week. And every once in a while, something I was going to write about has disappeared by the time I go to write about it, and it's kind of frustrating. So it got me into the mindset of that, and the news that Facebook was finally shutting down Friend Feed, which is one of those things like MySpace that people forget even existed. But Friend Feed was a sort of proto-Twitter-like thing. It was kind of neat for its day. It was essentially the idea was you would connect together all your different social things that you did, like your YouTube and your Flickr and whatever, and then anything you did online would automatically be echoed into this friend feed, so people would know if you had posted photos. It would say, hey, they posted new photos, or they posted a video, or they liked this video, or they did this thing over here on this other site. And it was kind of an interesting way to kind of give your friends visibility into what you were doing online if you were doing it on a bunch of different sites. And I used to have it all hooked up to my stuff. So, like, for instance, on my Skeptic History page, I had a link to FriendFeed. So if you wanted to get Skeptic History on FriendFeed, you could do it. But Facebook bought them, and it had done that standard thing where
they ruin it.
Well, they didn't change it. They just, sort of left it the way it was, and gradually things would break and not get fixed, and you could tell that it wasn't a high priority for them, and finally it got to the point where there were so few people using it that they decided to shut it down last week. So that got me thinking about writing something. So I wrote a blog post this week about, what do you do when these things happen? And there's not a lot of good advice for it, but I did have a few pieces of advice, and one of which is to always be aware of what tools you are using. Some of these things can kind of fade into the background and you kind of forget you're using them. And then when they go away, it's like, oh crap, I'm not getting my notifications of this, that, or the other thing because that tool disappeared. So, one of the things you need to do when you're doing things online and using tools like friend feed or Twitter or IFTTT or YouTube or whatever, is be aware of which tools may be on thin ice, which takes some, and I do this naturally because it's part of my business, is pay attention to the computer industry, right? Pay attention to when companies buy other companies, and follow the blog of the companies that make the tools that you use online. So if you use, obviously things like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube are not going to disappear anytime soon, but lesser products by those same companies disappear all the time. Google's notorious for putting products up, and they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of products, and as long as the search engine and YouTube are making money, it doesn't really matter what happens to the other ones, but occasionally they decide, oh, this product number 2407 is, only has a billion people using it. For Google, the numbers are always so crazy large, but you know how it is. Something that would be enough for an entire business to run on, for Google,
like Reader,
is nothing. Yeah, and Google Reader they shut down, which everybody got mad at.
What was the email replacement thing that had all the whiz-bang with
Wave?
Wave, that was what it was, yeah.
Wave was weird, too. I attended a session here in Atlanta amongst the kind of startup people, and I wish I had recorded the session, because the guys who were presenting it was almost cultish how convinced they were that Wave was absolutely the future of all business communication, and that if you did not move to support Wave and make your business compatible with Wave, that you were making a grave business error. And I was sitting in the back of the room, and I climbed up at the QA at one point, and it's like, this product just came out. It's like, no, you don't understand. I've seen internal presentations, and Google is committing to this in a big way. And I'm like, I'm not buying it. And sure enough, like a year later, the thing is gone. So it's.
I bet you there's a lot of technology though that behind the scenes that they're still using though. So.
Yeah, I think elements of Wave have survived in Google Docs. If you ever edit a Google Doc at the same time as another person, and if you've seen what Wave was.
I'm sorry, I'm sidetracking you. I didn't mean to do that.
No, it's a good example, because there were people who jumped in with both feet on Wave. And I don't recommend that. I don't recommend jumping in on platforms that are new. I definitely recommend being a little bit cagey. I hate to bring up Lanyard because I get teased about it so much, but Lanyard, Lanyard was not a thing that I was recommending back when they first came out. They first came out in like 2009, 2010. I waited until it looked like there was a critical mass around that product, and it looked like people were actually using it before I started recommending it to other people, because I wasn't going to recommend something to people that was going to disappear. So that's definitely something that I recommend people do, is try to, don't be too quick. I mean, sometimes it's good to get in early, but don't be too quick to adopt things, and be careful with things that are done by giant companies. The ideal thing is if you can find products that solve the problem you're trying to solve that are what are called open source, then you've got a backup plan. And this is more and more common, especially with products that are built by nonprofits, or a lot of these news, journalism-oriented things that are being done recently that I've talked about a lot are done by nonprofits and are put out as open source so other news organizations can take advantage of them. And the advantage of that is that if the live version that you're using disappears, goes down, starts crapping out, you can theoretically go find somebody who can help you take the source code. Open source means the actual blueprint to making that piece of software is out there on the web, and you can take it and put it on your own server and put your own version of it up. And one of the things I've had, I've got a day job, so I don't have infinite amounts of time to do this stuff, but if I did, there's a ton of open source stuff that I would love to stand up skeptic versions of. There's this product called Politowoops that looks for deleted tweets by politicians, And I would love to put a copy of that up that just looked for deleted tweets by Deepak Chopra and Joe Mercola and all those guys, right?
So that's open source?
Yeah, that's an open source product.
I see evil monkeys running around inside Brian's head right now.
Yeah.
That's open source?
Well, there's an interesting problem with PolitiWhoops, and I think PolitiWhoops gets away with it with Twitter because of the fact that they only track politicians, and politicians are, obviously public figures, and they do this, they tweet on public time, so there's kind of an open records issue and stuff like that. I think if you tried to do it in a more general form to people like Deepak Chopra and stuff, Twitter might get mad at you. Which isn't to say that we couldn't put a copy of it up and just collect the tweets and just not post them publicly on a site just to see what was happening. But anyway, my point is that open source is a good example of something you can do to try to insulate yourself from stuff breaking. But the other thing, of course, is always know what the other solutions are, right? If there's a problem with YouTube or YouTube's not going to go down anytime soon, but your account might get disabled on YouTube, which is a similar thing.
That was ironic.
I just got a weird ass beep out of my phone. I have no idea what that was.
That was your YouTube account getting this.
Yeah. Do not speak badly of YouTube.
Yeah, I guess so. But one of the things you can do with a service like YouTube is insulate yourself by having a backup account on a competing service like Dailymotion or Vimeo. And then if your video is controversial or if you get a DMCA complaint and your YouTube channel gets shut down, you can have a copy of it somewhere else and point people to that. But the other thing you do is just find, alternative services. So, for instance, we had this problem recently with the Food Babe, and she made a configuration change on her site to block the Internet Wayback Machine from keeping copies of her deleted blog posts, which she likes to delete things when she gets criticized. And
honesty.
But it happens that the way she was blocking the Internet Archive doesn't work for certain other archive services. So as long as you can catch her blog post before she deletes it, you can archive it on FreezePage or Archive Today or whatever. But in order to do that, you got to know that, right? So my recommendation to skeptics and to anyone else is that when you're using tools like this, always know what the other tools are, right? You may have your favorite one, the Internet Archive, but know where Archive Today and FreezePage and Website are, so that if for some reason Internet Archive doesn't work, you can switch to the backup. And it's just something to keep an eye on. Another one that I mentioned in the article that I was disappointed to see, I had noticed it seemed like it wasn't being supported. It's a service called unsourced.org, and it's particularly for news stories about science papers. And one thing that's very frustrating in the popular media is they will do these usually poorly written, poorly summarized stories about some paper, about some research, and they will incorrectly explain the research, but then they won't link to the actual paper from the news article, because a lot of news sites like the New York Times or BBC or USA Today assume that those things are too technical, and most of their readers don't want to go read that. And they're not in the habit of creating hyperlinks in the articles because they're oriented toward creating print versions of things which don't have hyperlinks. So what unsourced.org is basically kind of a rebutter sort of thing, where it was a browser plugin, and if you read an article that was about a science thing, it would show you the link to the science paper that was corresponding to that article, so you could go read the original paper. And the software is still up, and it still runs, but there isn't anybody really supporting it. And so things are breaking, and it doesn't always have information on every news story, and there's not a lot of people putting information into it. And the reason is that the nonprofit, which is a UK nonprofit called the Media Standards Trust, doesn't really have the funding they need to keep the thing going. They would like to keep it going. It's up there. So that's another thing you can do is, basically try to support these outfits, so that if it's a nonprofit that's doing something, try to rally the troops and get them some funding for their project. And I hope that Skeptics maybe could get behind the Media Standards Trust and try to find them some funding for unsource.org. But if worse came to worse, it is open source also. So in theory, we could take a copy of it and put it up somewhere else and create our own version of it. But there's a lot of great tools out there, and it's frustrating when they disappear, but there are ways to work around it.
So if I were to take one of these open source tools, and if I wanted to host it myself and configure it for some kind of thing, where would I start?
Well, it depends, and that is one of the very frustrating thing about open source is a lot of times people will just put the source code on GitHub or SourceForge or one of these sites that stores these things, and they won't put a lot of instructions about how to get it working. Now, some of them will. I've seen some projects, like for instance, there's a Twitter blocking thing called Block Together, and not only do they have very good instructions on how to set up your own version of it, they even have virtual machine instructions so you can set up a virtual copy of it on your own computer for testing purposes. And they have all the scripts and whatnot to get that started. So some of them are set up that way, where it's literally a matter of follow the instructions, ding, 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 and you can get this thing running. And in some cases, there are hosting services that are set up to run these things. A lot of stuff's being written, well, things vary. Some stuff's written in Python, some stuff's written in there's a new thing called Node.js that a lot of simpler server things are written in now, and there's a server service, I believe, called Heroku that runs a lot of Node.js stuff, and you can set up a Heroku instance, and you get charged by the amount of CPU you use, and it's really not that hard to get something up and running, literally in a matter of hours, and it doesn't cost a lot of money.
As long as you can limit the amount of resources it's using, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You end up potentially becoming a victim of your own success if you do put it up and you publicize it well, and 1 million people start using it. Then you start getting charges from your hosting service, and you might get yourself into a situation where you have to take it down because, and that's why these services go down. It's like, oh, I put it up as a neat little toy, and then 100,000 people started using it, and I got a $900 hosting bill one month, and I had to pay my rent. So now it's gone.
Yep.
So these things do happen, but
and I don't have time to document it, so I'm just going to throw it up on GitHub, and there you go. You can do whatever you want with it. If you've got money, all yours.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. I might have to look into something like that because I am curious. I won't want to set something up just to learn how to do it.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot of interesting technologies out there.
Thanks, Tim. Were there any questions? There was a comment. Oh, yeah. Don't forget the lanyard mention.
Oh, yeah. Drinking game.
Yeah. Bob is next. Bob is going to tell us the rules of the drinking game.
So.
Well, he's going to try, but
Bob's going to create a new drinking game right here.
Right. So sometimes, like last week, I do a story that's just not happy. So I'm gonna. It's been known to happen. It's been so I'm gonna force myself to do something positive this time.
Okay.
I'm not gonna dwell on the fact that the measles outbreak that the measles who run the Hippocrates Institute got their measly little fine dropped, or the news that the measles outbreak at Disneyland was confirmed to have been due to a drop in vaccination rates, or that a global warming denier is chairing the House Science Committee. I want to do
don't
something
get me started.
fun and happy. You know, I don't want to talk about the polio workers who were killed in Pakistan, or the 1-month-old who died of pertussis in Perth. And I'm not going to talk about how corporate scam Herbalife was found to not be a pyramid scheme, even if it has all the characteristics of a pyramid scheme. So I decided that this week I'd like to do another episode of, and if you could bring it up, North Korea or
Scientology. I don't have music ready.
Insert cheery game show music here.
Yes.
Hang on.
So.
No, I don't have it. Sorry. You should have warned me.
Oh, okay. I sent out a tweet. Anyway.
Who has the worst haircut in these two photos?
No, they have the same barber. That's why I picked it. Because they have this like standing butt cut. Yeah. So anyway, I made that myself. Okay. No.
Wow.
I know. I'm pretty proud. Okay. So the first one, folks. Who
go.
Called for his followers to, quote, make mushroom cultivation scientific, intensive, and industrialized. Was that Kim Jong-un or L. Ron Hubbard?
Kim Jong-un.
All right.
Yeah, I'd say Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
That is, in fact, Kim Jong-un.
Ding, ding, ding.
Very
ding,
well
ding,
done.
ding, 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 ding.
Hooray! Okay.
Boop, boop, boop.
So, for those of you playing at home, that was... Everybody got that right. Okay. In fact, most of you are, in fact, playing at home. That's what the internet allows us to do. Okay. So...
I don't know. Some people may not be.
True.
But we want to know about that.
Anyway, so, who said, we're playing for blood, the stake is Earth? Was that L. Ron or Kim Jong?
I'm going to say L. Ron. Anyone?
Yeah, I'll say L. Ron.
I'll say L. Ron.
It's L. Ron Hubbard. Yay. Wow, this is not a hard game, apparently. Okay, so, who said, we serve the people? Tom Cruise or Kim Jong-un?
We serve the people to whom?
Well,
It's a cookbook.
It's a cookbook.
It's a cookbook.
We served. Well, I was gonna say. That was a tough one.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I'm gonna say L. Ron Hubbard.
All right. It is, in fact, Kim Jong-un. Whoa! Yes!
Have you ever seen Tom Cruise and Kim Jong-un together?
Huh?
Good
Just
question.
saying.
Yeah.
Ooh, I wonder. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Who has slaves? Oh, I'm not going to go there. Okay, so.
Okay.
Yeah. So, on the day we can fully trust each other, there will be peace on Earth. Is that North Korea? Is it Scientology?
I'm going to say Scientology.
I say North Korea.
Scientology.
I'm saying Scientology.
Eve is wrong. That is Scientology, not North Korea. Because they never talk about peace in North Korea.
Mm.
Yeah, they never talk about peace and well, whatever.
Okay, so, who said that stupid effing kid, look at what he's done to me? Was that L. Ron Hubbard after learning that his son Quentin had tried to kill himself in 1976, or Kim Jong-il when Kim Jong-nam was caught trying to sneak into Disneyland in Disneyland, Japan in 2001?
Yes.
Is that both of them?
L. Ron.
Which one is it? Is it L. Ron
I think
Hubbard
it's
or is it
Hubbard.
Kim Jong?
I'm going to say Kim Jong.
Brian, go with the group. That seems
It's
clearly that's the message here tonight.
Fine.
Do whatever Tim says.
Yeah, so he's
just trying to be, unique.
Kim Jong.
L. Ron Un. No. L. Ron Hubbard his first thought was for himself when his son tried to kill himself. Well done, L. Ron. Most perfect man ever.
Nice.
Okay. Fire an opening salvo of an ideological campaign and make our fire concentrated, regular, and accurate. Kim Jong-un or L. Ron Hubbard?
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Was it about a farting contest?
That would make... Well, no, I bet you Kim Jong-un can rip a big one. Yeah.
I'm going to say Kim Jong-un.
Yeah?
Tim seems to usually be right.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Tim on this one because I got burned on the last one. So there you go.
That, in fact, was Kim Jong-un. Well done.
Ooh,
All right.
that was hard.
Yeah.
Okay, how about training is also a battle? L. Ron Hubbard or North Korean propaganda flunky?
Ooh, training is also a battle. That's hard.
Eve?
Scientology. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
Football practice.
I'm going to say Kim Jong-un.
That is a North Korean propaganda flunky. Brian, at this point, I would say North Korea if I were you.
I'm going to say that because you pretty much gave the answer already.
A
So there you go.
propaganda flunky?
Yeah, just...
Propaganda flunky.
Yep. So, which seeks to, quote, demonstrate the advantages of the sub-work team management system to the full? Is that North Korea or is that Dianetics?
Sub-work team.
It doesn't sound convoluted enough for Dianetics.
I know. That's all. So I'm going to say, North Korea on that one. What do you say, Tim?
Yeah, I'll go with that.
All right, North Korea, it is. You guys are kicking ass tonight.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so who exhorted followers to establish cultured ways in production and life on a high level?
North Korea.
Okay, sure, that's fine.
Okay.
Who said not
Just gonna
not
go past that one, I guess.
Yeah, not smoking enough will cause lung cancer. Is this North Korea trying to raise tobacco consumption or L. Ron Hubbard being L. Ron Hubbard?
Not smoking enough will cause North Korea.
Yeah, I'm going to say North Korea as well.
Okay.
L. Ron Hubbard.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
Wow.
Kidnaps. So the next one is kidnaps actresses. North Korea or Scientology?
Well, both.
Yes.
Yeah, both.
I say yes. Yeah, my answer is yes.
Okay. So normally, I have to say, I looked for an actress that Scientology had kidnapped. I couldn't find one.
Anyone who'd ever been a Sea Org.
Well, they probably haven't been convicted.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true, because usually the celebrity ones in Scientology get kind of treatment. They don't really
So
hard
Call
stuff.
it that, but that's not really. Yeah.
So I'm going to go with this as being North Korea. In February '78, South Korean actress Choi Eun-hee and her film director husband, Shin Sang-ok, were kidnapped in Hong Kong and taken to Pyongyang on the orders of Kim Jong-il.
Wow.
Yep.
Alpha on Twitter says it was Kim Jong-nam, not Kim Jong-un, who was caught sneaking into Japan.
I
That's
thought
what he
that's
said.
what.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's what Bob said.
But you didn't say uncle.
Although Kim Jong-un also did go way back in the day when he was a little kid. He also went to Disneyland because why? The Kims are freaks. So, which is an actual phrase? Let us raise a strong wind of studying the great Kim Il-sungism, Kim Jong-ilism, or is the real phrase, we should aspire to the highest levels of Hubbardology and Miscavagism?
The first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally the first one. That was totally North Korea there. Okay, what about...
Is it Hubbardism? I don't think I've ever heard the term Hubbardism.
I could buy Hubbardism, but I wouldn't I wouldn't expect anybody to say
Miscavigism.
Yeah.
Hubbardology and miscavigism.
Hubbardology. I could conceive that have turning up somewhere in an old document.
Mm.
But okay, so the final totals are not taken down. So well done, guys.
Yay!
Someone won.
Yay. No, the one that I wanted to use.
There you go. I finally got it.
Nice.
But no one in North Korea or Scientology won.
Yeah, they all lost.
Everyone loses in North Korea and in
loses.
Scientology.
There you go.
There was one other one that I wanted, but it was just too easy because okay, it turns out that there was this list in the not too distant past of new slogans that have been published, and I saw this in it wasn't one of the really bad English papers. It wasn't like the Mail or anything. So they had 120 new slogans that have been released. The one that I really like was "Let the strong wind of fish farming blow across the country."
Yeah.
I couldn't find any way to work that into a plausible L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to do it, but I wanted to mention it. And a lot of them were like, "Let the strong wind of blank blow," or or just the name of some occupation, miners. That was.
Is this related to the fart competition that we were talking about earlier? I don't.
So yeah, this is always a fun one to research because they're just so bonkers.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I had fun. Thank you. That was so much better than cancer and death, which is my usual beat.
Yeah. Thanks for not bumming us out without picking us back up.
Yay!
Yay! So, Eve's next.
Okay.
Awkward pause.
Yeah.
Is it going to be picnic baskets?
Yeah.
Picnic baskets.
Sort of. It's been a good week for cryptozoology. Sort of. Amateur photographer John Alastair MacDonald got a great picture of a meteor over Loch Ness. So that's the first slide.
There we go.
That's cool. It is. And shortly thereafter, some tourists got a really good look at Nessie. And there haven't been that many sightings recently. But they were so mesmerized, unfortunately, that they forgot to take a good picture. And instead they got some footage of some waves. Anyway.
Next slide?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
First, I have a dramatic question to ask.
Okay, fine.
Is it possible that the meteor and Nessie's reappearance are related? Go for it. Slide. And the question, the answer to that question, or that type of question, is always no. And
Nessie is an alien?
why not?
Don't let it out.
Yeah.
It's a secret.
A reptilian.
Oh, so that's where they go when they're not wearing their human skins.
Yeah. Could be.
Skinny dipping in the loch.
Yeah.
Skinny dipping in the loch.
But
Wouldn't
more
that be lizard
importantly,
dipping? I don't know.
Oh, they're not dipping their lizards. That's disgusting.
Okay.
You stinking lizard dipper.
I'm waiting.
It's okay. Don't worry, we've got 12 minutes. We're good, Eve.
Yeah, we're good. Keep going.
And Bigfoot's Asian cousin Yeti has been in the news again. Yay! Now, you may remember a few years ago, veterinarian Melba Ketchum published a DNA study of Bigfoot in a prestigious online journal that she bought. It was hilarious. On some pages, the journal's name was spelled incorrectly.
De novo?
Yeah, DeVono. It was de novo, but sometimes it was DeVono. And on each page, she had the notice all rights preserved rather than all rights reserved. Those flaws I've since
keep for the winter.
Well, there is a semantic difference there. So.
Yeah, they've corrected those, but the paper's still cites at least one joke article, and just, not really very good at all. But there was still hope in the form of Brian Sykes of Oxford University, a high-profile and highly regarded geneticist. He was performing DNA analysis on samples that allegedly came from Bigfoot, the Yeti, the Russian Almasty, and the Orang Pendek, although that one got not a whole lot of publicity. Yeah. And first there was going to be, first there was a 3-part television show on Britain's Channel 4, which is then shown on National Geographic here. The first episode on the Yeti aired on October 20th, 2013. Now, scholarship by a commercial television show is a bit worrying, but a peer-reviewed paper was to follow, and a book. None of the programs actually lent any support to the idea that some unidentified hairy man-ape primate thing is bopping around the Himalayas or the US or Russia. But the Yeti episode did end on a bit of a bombshell. 2 Yeti hair samples matched an ancient polar bear. So there was some sort of unidentified by science bear bopping around the Himalayas. So that was cool. But then we had to wait for the paper.
And his little buddy.
Sure. We had to wait for the paper, and then we had to wait some more for the paper. Finally, in July of last year, Sykes et al. Published their really quite short paper, Genetic Analysis of Hair Samples Attributed to Yeti, Bigfoot, and Other Anomalous Primates. In the Proceedings of the Royal Society B. Most of the submitted samples came up as perfectly normal animals, such as black bear, brown bear, cow, cirrus, horse, tapir, raccoon, penguin.
Penguin?
No, actually not. Raccoon.
Penguin hair? Eve, do you understand what you've discovered?
Yeah, I know. Porcupine, canine, human, plant material, and glass fiber. Now Ketchum.
What did that come off of?
Bigfoot's weirder than we thought.
Yeah.
Ketchum would have put all those together and made some sort of freaky-ass human hybrid, but Sykes didn't, fortunately. But again, the most interesting results were from the 2 alleged Yeti samples. According to the paper, quote, sequences derived from hair samples number 25025 and 25191 had 100% match with DNA recovered from a Pleistocene fossil more than 40,000 BP before present of U. maritimus, polar bear, but not to modern examples of the species, unquote. They concluded that it was most likely that the 2 samples, one golden brown and one reddish brown, quote, are from either a previously unrecognized bear species, color variants of U. maritimus, or U. arctos, brown bear, U. maritimus hybrids, unquote. Some were not entirely convinced. The next issue of Proceedings of the Royal Society B included a response from C.J. Edwards and R. Barnett. First, Edwards and Barnett pointed out an error in Sykes et al. Sykes and his co-authors had said the 100% match was to an ancient polar bear, not a modern one, but in fact the 100% match was to a modern polar bear from Little Diomede Island in Alaska. More importantly, though, they questioned Sykes' conclusions. They pointed out that one hair sample was collected over 40 years ago, and the age of the other, a single hair, wasn't documented, making them, quote, historic DNA, which is a subgroup of ancient DNA, unquote. And ancient DNA can be subject to damage or degradation, and these damages may prevent useful sequence data being obtained or can, in some instances, give false results, unquote. Now, they do admit that hair can be decontaminated easily, and that Sykes et al. Said that they had thoroughly cleaned the samples, but without any details of what they did. Still, the authors point out that quote, the diagnostic mutation that separates modern brown bears from modern polar bears occurs at position 1751 and is a CT transition. This base change sits in the middle of a run of 6 sea bases, which is exactly the place to expect a damage artifact. And they conclude the most parsimonious explanation of the sequences recovered is that they came from brown bear and exhibit DNA degradation, unquote. Now, to be clear, brown bears are known to exist in the Himalayas. Polar bears, not so much. Sykes and 2 of his co-authors responded in the same issue. They admitted and regretted their error about the ancient polar bear, but then blamed the error on GenBank, basically. But they stuck to their guns with regards to their hypothesis of the anomalous bear. They said that one of the samples was only about 10 years old, which is well within the age range of samples typically tested in the laboratory. And further, they argued that the raw data from each was of excellent quality, both samples amplified extremely well, unquote. Well, in the last few days, another article critical of Sykes et al. Has appeared. Eliezer E. Gutierrez and Ronald H. Pine published No Need to Replace an Anomalous Primate with an Anomalous Bear in the online open-access journal Zookeys. According to Gutierrez and Pine, you don't even need degradation to explain the results of Sykes et al. They've done a thorough analysis of the evidence, comparing the samples to DNA of many kinds of bear and using a variety of statistical methods. And they claim, quote, our results demonstrate that the very short fragment of the 12SR RNA gene sequenced by Sykes et al. Is not sufficiently informative to support the hypotheses provided by these authors with respect to the taxonomic identity of the individuals from which these sequences were obtained. We have concluded that there is no reason to believe that the 2 samples came from anything other than brown bears. And they conclude that the most parsimonious hypothesis regarding the identity of the Himalayan samples of Sykes et al. Is that they are from U. Arctos. So that's 2 papers now where the most parsimonious explanation was brown bear. Brown bear, not polar bear, and not hybrid.
It's a bear.
Yeah, and part of as I understand it, part of the thing with the comparison is there's a lot of similarity among bears. And particularly with polar bears and brown bears, that I think in the evolutionary scale they didn't separate that long ago. So that what with variants, it's
only been a couple weeks.
Yeah, there's not enough information to be able to say this is definitely a polar bear, not a brown bear, as Sykes et al. Did. Sykes has responded to Gutierrez and Pine, and somewhat less politely than he responded to Edwards and Barnett. In an email exchange with NBC News, Sykes stood by his findings, again, and said that Gutierrez and Pine's findings were entirely statistical in nature. I'm not sure why that invalidates them, but whatever. He went on to say, the explanation by Gutierrez and Pine might be right, or it might not be. The only way forward, as I have repeatedly said, is to find a living bear that matches the 12S RNA and study fresh material from it, which involves getting off your butt, not an activity that I usually associate with desk-bound molecular taxonomists.
This and the taxonomists.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice
prick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, nice ad hominem there from Professor Sykes. Now, I saw the Yeti show, and he stays inside his building in Oxford University through the whole show, where the host, who's a younger, thinner, fitter man, goes to the Himalayas. But whatever. But anyway, his ad hominem isn't even correct. Both Gutierrez and Pine have done field work. Pine explains their backgrounds in a comment on the Doubtful News story, and there's a link to that in the show notes. Sykes had previously discussed leading an expedition to the Himalayas to find this mysterious bear, although he's cagey about that issue with NBC. And Gutierrez and Pine think that's just really not necessary. You know, the evidence doesn't really warrant that, and they suggest looking at other samples of you know, bears. Samples that already, you know, have been collected. Sykes also notes that, quote, the real heroes of the piece, presumably as opposed to the desk-bound molecular taxonomists, are the people who actually went to the Himalayas, not Sykes, spoke to the local people, found these hairs, had the wit to keep a few, and then contributed them to the study. Because that's really hard to do. There's some hair that I believe is from this Yeti. I shall collect it.
It sounds just like that.
Now what shall I do?
Eve, your impersonation of a Yeti search is uncanny.
What shall I do with this hurt? I could try sticking it in my ear. That will convince people. I could give it to the DNA study. Hero. Anyway, to top off the douchiness, he then plugged his upcoming book called The Nature of the Beast.
Picking up women, how to.
No, it's almost better than that. The Nature of the Beast, the first genetic evidence on the survival of ape men, Yeti, Bigfoot, and other mysterious creatures into modern times, which will be available at least in the UK in April. I don't know when it's coming out here.
So,
But I just want to say it's an interesting title since it actually seems to imply the existence of ape men into modern times.
Well, they're ape men everywhere.
Well, yeah.
Well, they're hairless ape men, but
yeah, but no. While his test suggested, you know, no such thing, and it's looking more and more as if he didn't really uncover anything anomalous whatsoever.
Well, no, his reading was completely anomalous.
Yeah. But so for more, and this is important, for more on the story, I suggest Blake Smith's post on Insight at skeptic.com and Sharon
without an S.
Hill's. Yes.
Without it.
Well, actually, just one S. And Sharon Hill's Doubtful News post, and there will be links to both of those in the show notes.
Is it me or is Brian Sykes just starting to sound like Melba? I mean, like, it sounds like it's cherry-picked information.
You know, one of his co-authors on the original paper is Retman Mullis, who's, I think that's his name, who's a head of something called Bigfootology. And Sykes is supposed to be part of the Bigfootology team as team geneticist. And I know there are some Bigfooters who claim that he's gone full footer. I don't know if that's true. Huh?
Big footers or big feeders? I don't know. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's true. I just think he sounds... Is there a nice way of saying attention whory?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really what it sounds like. It sounds like he's doing, like, you know, what a hoaxer would do.
And just, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I don't begrudge him for plugging his book, but,
yeah,
you know, if your data is clearly flawed, you know, this isn't a really, you know, if you're selectively picking something, a little tiny fragment, that sounds like anomaly hunting to me.
Yep.
It it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I just.
And his response was just such a.
Weenus.
Oh, yeah. Not pleasant.
Yeah. I mean.
And not warranted. So.
He's an ape man. No.
Hmm.
So on a related note, Blake's back.
Hey, Blake.
Yay. Hi, Blake. Would you say the differences with the DNA were barely discernible?
Yes. Yes, I would say that.
I had to read that one.
Wow.
Okay.
Nothing but the best from Blake.
Yes, nothing but the best.
Yep.
Okay, so any questions about the Yeti bears? No? Anything else? I don't see anything else elsewhere. Thank you, Eve, for that barely interesting... I'm kidding. I had to go there.
Mm-hmm.
Bear.
No, you really didn't have to.
No, I had to.
You could have had not gone there,
No, I had to.
and no one would have held it
I
against you.
am not responsible for my actions. Clearly.
I'll
The
back you
robots
up on that
control
because
you.
I'm
Yes,
going to
the
use
robot was
that
controlling
as...
me. Okay, so I just wanted to say that whenever I hear the name Melba Ketchum,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have to design a game involving Chex Mix and throwing things at a large crowd of people.
Okay.
Have you seen a doctor about this?
No one.
Ketchup on Melba toast.
Well, You know what Melba toast is? Yeah. So the Melba toast is in the Chex Mix, and never mind.
Yeah.
It was funny in my head.
Mm.
as
No, it
most things
wasn't.
are. It was. Okay, so let's wrap the show up because bite me, Bob. Did anybody get the trivia question?
Yes. Someone got
people.
it. Where
Somebody got it early on. Yeah.
it was Alex Murdoch
Yep.
got it first.
Oh, I thought.
Hooray.
Okay.
Pierre also got it on YouTube. The question was...
Eric Vinol got it too. I saw at some point.
Oh, did he? Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
But I
because
think Alex got it first.
got it early on. Yep.
But it was Uganda. On March 17th, 2000, it was basically an apocalyptic Catholic splinter cult that had a compound in Uganda, and they believed the world was going to end, and they all sold their belongings. And then when the world didn't end, when the 2000 came around, they adjusted their dates, and it was going to happen a few months later, I think, and then it was going to happen. And then finally things came to a head, and a whole lot of people ended up dead. And my understanding is the perpetrators are still at large for this crime.
The people who perpetrated the suicides?
The
I have
people
a feeling.
who actually locked the building and set it on fire and then
Oh, that's
down
right.
the road.
I remember that. Yeah.
But I may be wrong on that. But a very, very hideous incident from the history. The 20th anniversary of the other cult in Japan attacking the subway is coming up on Friday too. So it's a bad week for cult anniversaries. So good job, Alex.
Way to go, Alex.
Hurrah!
Hurrah. I'm trying to type something funny on Twitter. Nobody even answered what was behind me, but it was slightly related to what was going on the show and some other things that have been talked about this week. This one, the one on my left, and I'm assuming you're right, unless, I don't know, you're watching in a mirror. That one is a video clip from a movie from a long time ago called Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh, God.
Where
that
John
was horrible.
Lithgow and his family hang out with Bigfoot. And the other one is a trailer for a movie, an independent movie that's supposed to come out later this year that, among other things, has lots of mullets. But it also has Bigfoot. It is called Bigfoot the Movie, independently done. It's about three guys who discover and investigate Bigfoot in some nowhere California place. And it's a comedy, and it looks funny. So, there you go. Cool. And now, book time. Book time, and I will look at announcements. Do you have announcements? I'm looking at announcements. We have one announcement. Eve, is speaking at Chicago Skeptics in the pub, and not in the library, in the pub, this week on Saturday, March 21st. And there's a link in the show notes. There will be. And
Brian, you'll be speaking at my class.
I will be.
30th.
But not for public consumption.
Not for public consumption.
So, yay!
Unless you're already enrolled in Bob's class.
Pretty much.
Yes. If you're already enrolled in Bob's class, then I will be talking to on Monday. Yay. Who's going first?
I'll go first.
Go.
In 1969, the Board of Commissioners for Shamania County, Washington, a heavily forested county in the Cascade Mountains, adopted an ordinance stating that the, quote, premeditated, willful, and wanton slaying, unquote, of a Sasquatch would thenceforth be considered a felony. Whereas there is evidence to indicate the possible existence in Shamania County of a nocturnal primate mammal variously described as an ape-like creature or subspecies of Homo sapien, and whereas this creature is generally and commonly known as Sasquatch, Yeti, Bigfoot, or giant hairy ape, and whereas publicity attendant upon such real or imagined sightings has resulted in an influx of scientific investigators as well as casual hunters, many armed with lethal weapons, and whereas the absence of specific laws covering the taking of specimens encourages laxity in the use of firearms and poses a clear and present threat to citizens as well as to the creatures themselves, therefore be it resolved that any premeditated, willful, and wanton slaying of any such creature shall be deemed a felony punishable by a fine not to exceed $10,000 and or imprisonment in the county jail for a period not to exceed 5 years.
So if you yell, he's coming right for you, forehand, you're in a clear.
You're golden.
Yes. Okay. I'm just working my way across. Go, Bob.
Humanism is that form of secularism that views man, not God, as the central reality of life. Gloria Steinem, founding editor of Miss Magazine and recipient of the American Humanist Association Pioneer Award, said, by the 21st century, we will, I hope, raise our children to believe in human potential, not God. Humanists, in general, believe that people must solve their own problems apart from any divine guidance. Secular humanism and relativism are the philosophic bases of modern liberalism.
I fail to see how this is related to Bigfoot.
Yeah, well, it's not. Yeah, very roundabout.
Go, Eve.
Mort saw the Dark Reaper advance on him again, blade swinging bat for the final stroke. He stood over the boy. You don't know how sorry this makes me, he said. Mort pulled himself onto his elbows. I might, he said. Death gave him a surprised look for several seconds, and then started to laugh. The sound bounced eerily around the room, ringing off the shelves as Death, still laughing, like an earthquake in a graveyard, held Mort's own glass in front of its owner's eyes. Mort tried to focus. He saw the last grain of sand skid down the glossy surface, teeter on the edge, and then drop, tumbling in slow motion towards the bottom. Candlelight flickered off its tiny silica facets as it spun gently downward. It landed soundlessly, throwing up a tiny crater. The light in Death's eyes flared until it filled Mort's vision, and the sound of his laughter rattled the universe. And then Death turned the hourglass over.
Sounds familiar. Tweets are 140 characters long. There are 26 letters in the English, 27 if you include spaces. Using that alphabet, there are 27 to the 140th power, or roughly 10 to the 200 possible strings. But Twitter doesn't limit you to those characters. You have all of Unicode to play with, which has room for over 1 million different characters. The way Twitter counts Unicode characters is complicated, but the number of possible strings could be as high as 10 to the 800th. Of course, almost all of them would be meaningless jumbles of characters from a dozen different languages. Even if you're limited to the 26 English letters, strings would be full of meaningless jumbles like patikabjub. Eric's question about the tweets that actually say something in English. How many of those are possible? What's your book, Tim?
Mine was the Emergency Sasquatch Ordinance.
The emergency, because it's clearly
urgent.
Yeah,
urgent.
well, they adopted it that day. It is worth pointing out that ordinance was adopted on April 1st, 1969. So I think it was not intended entirely seriously.
Not completely. I mean, not even remotely surprised that Tim knows the exact thing.
And it isn't all Sasquatch stuff. It's basically a book about goofball laws.
Fun.
Cool. That sounds like right up my alley. Go ahead, Bob.
Mine is Ed Hinson's Is the Antichrist Alive and Well? 10 keys to his identity.
Wow.
And again, the answer to all questions like that is no.
It's funny. You picked the most coherent section of the book to just throw us off, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Eve.
Mine is Mort by Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett! I do recognize that.
Yeah, who recently died. And there was a petition, I think on change.org, to death, asking him basically to turn over the lifetime or so.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so mine was the beginning of the answer to this question: how many unique English tweets are possible? How long would it take for the population of the world to read them out loud? Which was submitted by Eric Hoptpakong in New Jersey. No, Eric H. in Hoptpakong, New Jersey, to Randall Monroe, creator of XKCD, for his website What If on XKCD, and this is one of the first volume of What Ifs from that site.
Yep.
And it is really cool stuff. So the questions are all answered pretty thoroughly and intelligently, even if they are quite bizarre, and I like that.
That's fun.
Yep. Are we done? Is that everything? Did we answer all the stuff and do all the things at the place with the people?
And the deal.
In the deal? Yes. But what about that thing?
No.
No? We're going to do the thing with that guy. Okay. So now I'll put the logo up and start the music, and thank everyone for watching. And then I have to read the other thing. The Virtual Skeptics is an independent production of whatstheharm.net, Skeptical Humanities, myself, ICBS Everywhere, and Doubtful News. Our logo was designed by Sarah Mayhew at sarahmayhew.com, and our theme music is by Musicant and used with permission. Really?